The following is a Hoop Ball presentation.
My name is Lawrence Brooks, and you're listening to the Hoop Ball Mavericks podcast. Ever since I started this podcast, people have been asking me for betting tips. I always get asked, who you got, Lakers or Clippers, Brady or Mahomes? And I'll tell you what I tell them. Where you bet is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I tell people to bet with the best. Bet with MyBookie. MyBookie's rep is rock solid, and they've got the best odds, contests, and promotions in the business. They're the only place I trust to handle my NBA-related bets. The one sportsbook guaranteed to give me the best lines for Monday night basketball, March Madness, and everything in between. And you know me, I don't give my stamp of approval easily. To earn it, you got to be the best at what you do, and my bookie is the best sports book out there, period. It's simple. Sign up, enter promo code HoopBall, and get your deposit matched away halfway up to $1,000. Head over to my bookie if you want to add a little excitement to the sport you love and the games you bet. Bet with the best, bet with my bookie. Again, thank you guys for joining me. This is the Hoop Ball Mavericks podcast. I'm your host, Lawrence Brooks, and for today, we want to bring in a special guest that we've already had before, somebody that knows the Mavericks inside and out, has plenty of opinions and insight on the game and on the team and how they've been performing, and is a live wire on Twitter. He's a must follow. We have Mavs Reddit own Thomas Rubin. How are you, man?
I'm doing pretty good.
Nice. So the Mavericks, man. So Wednesday was a little bit of a scare again, just like we had the last time we played Boston. And I was I mean, we won, so I'm not speaking in real time here, but at the time I was a little concerned as in terms of like, will this turn into another situation like last game where we have to win it with a last second shot after it seemingly looked like we had the game in hand? What were your thoughts on the game? Because obviously we won, and thankfully we just pulled it out. Because at this point, a win is a win. We will take it. But what were your thoughts on the game against the Celtics?
So, yeah, a win's a win. At the end of the day, like, to me, that's all that matters. But, so it's funny. So I actually didn't watch a lot of the game because I was out doing stuff. And, it was the fourth quarter and people were like blowing up my phone and being like, check the game, check the entry of the game. Like I had friends contacting me, like family members being like, hey, like, you might want to watch the game right now because it doesn't look like it's going to, either you might want to watch the game or you might not want to watch the game. So it's like, okay. So I find the game somewhere and I'm like, okay, this is bad. Because I had someone on Twitter just be like, hey, like, just keep me updated. It's like, oh, like we're up by 20, we're up by 20. It's nothing. Like, oh, no, we're up by 15. Oh, crap. Like, no, we're only up by 10. And I was like, this is great. Um, it's just, it's almost like a microcosm of like stuff that's been wrong with the Mavs all year. you know, where it's like, where like my whole philosophy is like, if you're up by 20, like, do not let up. Like, don't, you know, keep your foot on the gas, like the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
And we seem to have a problem doing that, whether it be just like the guys on the floor or sometimes like a coach's decision or something like that. Like something always seems to happen where it's like the games are a lot closer than what they need to be. And I saw people on Twitter being like, "Oh, we're just trying to make sure like our clutch, record is so really good." And I'm like, even if that's true, like you really can't be playing with that fire. Like Boston, like yes, like Boston's underperforming for what I think they were trying to perform at the beginning of the year. Like I think they saw themselves as like a top like 2 seed in the East, and they have obviously these really great talents and Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and and a bunch of guys, Kemba Walker, all these guys around them. And like I think they're underperform. I think they're kind of the same way that we are, where we underperform and they also underperform, and they just like kicked it up a notch, like at the perfect time. Because we honestly, like, if it wasn't for Jalen and Luca, like, we should have lost that game. Like,
Absolutely.
and then like again, there's also like Rick Carlisle's weird decision about leaving KP out because of Marcus Smart, which I think might be a little oversimplification on my part, but still, It's like something that he like explicitly said after the game was that he was worried about Marcus Smart on KP, and I was like, well, that's kind of weird, um, but I don't know. I'm not a coach. I don't really know what the stats would have been, so.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, again, a win's a win. It's ugly. Like, yeah, it's super ugly. Like, of course, people on Twitter are going to talk about it still, just because it was an ugly game, on both sides,
Mhm.
especially towards the end. So, but a win's a win. So I can't really complain too much.
Absolutely. So my thing is, so some of these games where we get towards the end, or we get in the fourth quarter, late in the fourth quarter, and the game's hanging in the balance, and there's so many times where Luka either propels us to a win or he holds off the other team, and it's almost by himself. And while Jalen Brunson, he's been spectacular this season for all circumstances included. Um, but at the same time, we don't know. I don't think that the Mavericks or the NBA in general views him as a solidified secondary playmaker, closer type of guy. Do you think that the Mavericks suffer from not having a secondary play? Because I've mentioned on my podcast previously that while I love Porzingis, he's more of a play finisher instead of a playmaker. So he needs to be set up to do different things. Do you think that the Mavericks sometimes suffer from not having a secondary playmaker that can help close games with Luka?
Yeah, yeah. Like Jalen's been. I think Jalen has been really great, and I feel like he's been punching above his weight class. But I feel like most guards who come through Dallas, under Rick Carlisle, punch above their weight class. Like Jalen's great on his own. I think he'd be a fine starter on a couple teams. On a couple teams who need a point guard. Um, but yeah, I do agree that I think like when you look at like KP, like I think Luka does need like another solidified, like very much like an established like second guy,
Mhm.
who can create his own shot or help run the offense as well. Again, like Jalen's great in that role at the moment, but at the same time, I think he's been punching above his weight class, especially this year. So
Yeah, and I mean, and yeah, you speak to a great point. I mean, when guys come down and they play under Carlisle's system, it just seems to be that way. I mean, same thing happened to a lesser extent with Seth Curry, although he was already a proven commodity before he got to Dallas. But last year, he just had an outstanding season. He led the league in 3-point shooting. I mean, just a terrific year. And another guy who I hated to see go, but I mean, it is what it is. But yeah, I think Porzingis is, this quote unquote second guy if you're talking just a tandem. But I think
yeah,
especially in today's game, you just need a second playmaker, somebody who can get other people going. Because a lot of times it just comes down and it's no secret. It's Luka has to make something happen for everybody. And if they had one more guy that was a little, I mean, and I don't want to take anything away from Jalen Brunson. I think he's great. I think he's terrific. Like you said, I think he's playing, a little above water than maybe people expected, or maybe this is something we'll see from him moving forward. But it still doesn't feel sustainable in the sense that they need another guy on the perimeter, maybe a little bigger, and a guy who can get to the rim and finish and get to the free throw line a little more frequently. I think that would really benefit the Mavs in terms of like moving from five, six, seven to really jumping, making a leap into that top four category of the Western Conference. But so the current state of the Mavs. So for me, this is where I'm at with the Mavericks. I think they are a good team. I think that they can beat pretty much any team in the league on any given night. But we're talking about a team that in a playoff series, who all can they beat? And I think there's some limitations on the roster, much to what we just talked about with not having a secondary playmaker. But I just think, they don't have a ton of rim protection, although Porzingis has been much better at rim protecting. Like I've been telling people, just be patient with him. He seemed to has found his footing on the defensive end, and they could use a little more athleticism as well for their big men. What's your view on the current state of the Mavs? How do you feel about this year's Mavericks team as they are today?
they're a good team. I think I do think there are a lot of limitations. to us if we were to go into a playoff series, especially where we are now, where we're the seventh seed, and this year the seventh seed has to fight for their spot basically with the play-in tournament. Which, again, like people have asked me about this, and I will say that like the play-in tournament, like as like just a NBA fan, awesome. It just sucks when it's your team, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think everybody's trying to. We're all trying to jump up to the sixth seed. That's what we all want. But there are limitations. I feel like the way the roster is constructed, so far has not lived up to what I think what people thought. I think that a lot of like the decisions, whether it be Rick making decisions or the front office or somebody making decisions to rest KP or Luca or both um, for games at a time at a very crucial time, especially right now because I think we have like something like 6 games in 8 days. Like we have a couple back to backs coming up, which are never fun when it comes to the roster. Like I feel like there's a bunch of guys who have again, and I think it's all because of like Rick Carlisle and just kind of the system. But there's a lot of guys who have theoretically punched way above their weight limit. Like I again like the other day where I think we played the Pelicans where our starting lineup was literally 3 undrafted guys and then 2 second round guys, and it's like that's kind of crazy. Like the what we're able to get out of these guys sometimes is great. Like if Dorian Kidd is shot, that's awesome. If he plays defense, that's awesome. If Tim is hot, that's great. They're just a bunch of, the only thing is that um, it's like the talent level isn't quite as high as I think a lot of people expected us to be this year. Which again, like looking back at it, it's also like we have a bunch of guys who are, you know, uh, second round picks or undrafted free agents, and it's kind of crazy to think that that team plus KP and Luca is like the team, especially considering the fact that we're what I think at this recording like 4 games above 500. Still in the playoffs, which is great, technically. But it's just I do feel like there are limitations. I feel like there's I feel like a lot of it isn't on the team either. I feel like that stretch where we had the COVID stuff,
Yeah.
really messed up a bunch of guys. Like, where, I feel like we might be already like a 5 seed or a 6 seed already at the moment. If those guys had stayed healthy, because there were games in that stretch of games where I was like, we could have won that game easily. Like if everybody was there, that's kind of what I feel about the Mavs right now. I love the team, obviously. Like, I run a Twitter account dedicated to the team, but it's just like it's annoying, and I feel like if COVID stuff didn't happen, I feel like maybe if like the talent roster was a little bit better, I'd feel a lot better about this team in the long run. But I guess we'll kind of see what happens in the offseason, I guess, since we made one trade, which I think was a good trade in the long run, but so.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Great Twitter account, by the way. Anyone out there who is not following Mavs Reddit, but you are a Mavericks fan, you should be following immediately. And even if you're not, if you're just a fan of the NBA, great engagement, always terrific stuff being tweeted out by you. But as we speak to Twitter, give me your so a few things. One, so this is kind of a two-part question that I have for you. One, there's 2 polarizing names that seem to light Mavs Twitter sphere on fire every game, and that's Dwight Powell and that is Josh Richardson. Me personally, I've been exercising patience with Dwight because he's coming off such a tough injury, and this has just been a year unlike any other. And so while he's been inconsistent, he showed flashes of, the old Dwight Powell, and he showed flashes of not quite being where maybe he would like to be. And even showing just some maybe physical limitations on, defending bigger guys in the post, having a little bit of an issue guarding quicker fours out there. But overall, I feel like he's been okay. Josh Richardson, he's just been in a funk and couldn't make shots lately. And he was a guy that we really thought was going to be a great two-way player, which he's been good for Dallas. But again, like you mentioned with COVID, guys might still be behind a little bit. You just never know how this has affected everyone that has played. So, what are your thoughts on those two? Where do you stand on Josh Richardson and Dwight Powell?
You know, well, let's talk about Dwight, I guess, first, since Dwight's usually the one that I see, to me anyway, on my timeline, always seems to light up way quicker than anyone else on the team.
Mm-hmm.
um, Dwight is going to be Dwight. I, you know, I feel so bad about that injury still, just because like people ragged on him forever. He gets hurt, and then people are like, "Oh man, this sucks." And it's like, "Well, yeah, dude, because you never want to see a guy get hurt. Like, just like you know, no matter how much I have like disliked a guy or whatever, like I can't do it. Like I don't like for a guy's like career to be like on hold because of an injury.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and like I feel like he gets a lot of undeserved hate. Because I mean, like if you're a person who's working a job and you get a promotion, a pay raise, like great.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not a so the only money you have to worry about is like your own, and like it's the companies, like that's the only thing. So I don't like the contract that they gave him, just because like I do think that money could be allocated somewhere else. But at the same time, like, okay, like I'm not, if I'm him, I'm not, saying no to that contract that they gave him. Um, and I feel like a lot of that, and I feel like to a fault, it might just be like the Mavs organization where we are loyal to guys, you know,
Mm-hmm.
extremely loyal to Dirk, extremely loyal to JJ Barea, extremely loyal to like Devin Harris, like just a bunch of guys who came through, who like did XYZ. Like now, JJ's been able to play, like he's been able to show his talents out in Europe, and Devin Harris is now working the commentating stuff, so that's great. But um it's just like, and obviously Dirk is Dirk. Dirk has like lifetime money with the team, no matter what he does. Like they will make up a role for him and pay him accordingly. But
Yeah,
but
seriously.
like I just feel like um I feel like Dwight's gonna be okay. I think Dwight's biggest thing was he was able to run to the rim. Um he hasn't really been able to do much this year. I think because obviously the injury is still kind of hampering a little bit. Not saying that's bad. It's just like he's not as springy as he used to be. And a lot of people with that injury aren't after. Um, I don't really have any ill will towards Dwight at all. He's fine to me as a person, and um, yeah, like maybe one day we trade him, or maybe one day like the contract just ends and we don't re-sign him, or he takes a pay cut or something. But you know, um, at the end of the day, it's a business, and that's the money that they gave him. So I can't really be too mad. Uh, do I wish sometimes that he didn't flail when he like tried to grab a rebound or something? Yeah, I would, but like he's a funny guy, so I can't really be too mad. When it comes to Jay Rich is interesting because he is I believe that he is actually he's actually also his agent is also the same one as Luca,
Mm-hmm.
so they're kind of friends in that sense. And I think if down the line Luca says, okay, this is my team, I'm calling the shots, which I really think may happen one day, because we've seen it happen, like with the guys in Brooklyn and the Lakers, and you know, the more that people, even like Giannis out of Milwaukee, is like, hey, like you guys need to trade for people, blah blah, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I feel like Luca will eventually get down to that, when it comes, especially after this next contract. But I feel like Jay Rich is one of those guys where like Luke would be like, no, I want him on my team, you know, because we're friends, or because I really believe in him, or blah, or something with the, you know, um, he's one of those guys that I don't think is going to go away whether we like it or not. He's one of the guys that I believe he got pretty bad COVID. Like
Yeah, he was
it
gone
seemed
for quite a while.
it was gone for a while. So I just, and I feel like everybody was saying how last year was like the bubble year, like that there should be asterisk year. I think this year should be the asterisk year, just because like COVID has done a lot to the team negatively. you know, COVID did a lot to the Wizards. They were bad too. So, I just there are a couple teams that I feel like COVID has really messed up this year. And ours being one of the ones that they've messed up, but probably not as bad as some other teams. Um, and I'm not out on Jay Rich at all. I feel like the way that it seems like the guys interact with them, like social media and stuff like that, I feel like the guys like them a lot, which
Hmm.
is good. You have camaraderie if you're going to be, an NBA team. If you're going to be an NBA team. So I feel like it's going to be okay. This year may be a wash. We may not be as high as we want to be. Um, but, I think, and I hate doing the whole like, there's always next year type of stuff. But I think this year, especially just because of all the COVID stuff and the minimized games and like just like the crunch again, like we have 6 games in 8 days, which is not fun, for them anyway. I don't think it's fun for them because just like that's a lot of work to do in 8 days. Like normally it's like 4 games, or 5 games even. So adding an extra game there, just it's not fun for them, I'm sure. So, um, because they just have to be super, super into it the entire time. And I think it's right because right now it's like it's almost like the dog days of the NBA season at the moment. Like
Hmm.
it's like we're just gearing up for. I think we have some like 20 games left, so I feel like they're waiting, for that. But sometimes they are. But uh, yeah, I'm not on J Rich. I think J Rich will be fine in the longer run. It's gonna take a little bit. I think. Again, this season is a wash. Like, let's get a full off season, under our belt. I don't know how the off season is gonna work this year because I know like with the Olympics and stuff like that, it's gonna be a little different. And obviously because I think at least for next year, I think like the schedule is gonna be about the same too, where it starts in December or November or something, and you know, so but yeah, I think between J Rich and Dwight, I'm not upset. It's gonna be fine. I think for both of those guys, whether like they move or they get better, it's I think we'll be okay.
Nice. Yeah. I think you and I kind of have the same views on just the team in general. Like you're not extreme over the top about anything. You're able to criticize, but also have context within how you feel about a player. Because I feel like Mavs Twitter in general is just very extreme. And it's not lost on me the fact that when all these guys were down with COVID, all I kept reading about was we need to trade this player and we need to trade that player. And I'm like, we don't even have the team intact right now to even say who should be traded and who should stay on the team. It was really it was really crazy to see. But like I said, you seem to have the same kind of mindset as me in terms of just, you're not really over the top, or you can explain a guy that maybe he isn't the greatest player for the Mavericks long term, but he also is a valuable commodity to the team as they're currently constructed. And so with that being said, as it speaks to Mavs Twitter, I am one who think it's very extreme. When we win, everything is great. When we lose, it's almost as if we find a reason why we shouldn't have lost, and it's just the nature of the business. Like you're not gonna go 82 and 0, or in this case 72 and 0. Where are you at on Mavs Twitter? Do you feel like it's because you're very much involved in all engagement across the board? Do you feel like we're a little too extreme with the Mavericks, and maybe we should, have a little bit more laid back approach and accept this season for what it is? Because they are one of the hotter teams in the NBA right now. They've actually got back on a winning stride, but they're going to drop a game here or two. How do you feel about Mavs Twitter as they react on a nightly basis?
Oh, Mavs Twitter. So, I was like, so Mavs Twitter didn't really start popping off until like 2015, 2016. And even at that time, it was pretty lawless out there. I had started, just tweeting to tweet. I remember when I first started, there were a couple accounts, Squish41 being one of them, one of my best friends now. But there were a couple accounts who like everything was negative all the time, like no matter what. And obviously at the time, like we weren't good. The Rockets were starting to catch fire, and then the Spurs were so consistently great. Um, and so I started tweeting just because I wanted people just like, hey man, it's okay to be mad, like whatever, but just like calm down.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I think that Mouse. I think almost every fan base. Like I have a few friends from different fan bases. Like I have a friend who does a podcast who is a Brooklyn fan, and his tweets like on a night to night basis are like, why the hell did so and so do this, or why did so and so do this? Like,
Mhm.
can't wait for KD to get all this stuff. And I'm like, man, like I think every fan base deals with something like this. When we're hot, it's great. Everything's great usually. When it's not, it's literally hell on earth. Um,
Team, get rid of everybody. We don't need
yeah,
him. He's terrible. Yeah.
yeah. Like it's just the nature of like Twitter and like the internet in general, where it's just everything is immediate gratification. Like at the moment, like if you win, it's like the hot takes are super hot. If you lose, the hot takes are even hotter. Um, I think that everybody, and the thing about me, like, yes, I love the Mavs. Yes, like they're the reason why I am on Twitter a lot. But at the same point, like, the Mavs aren't my life.
Yeah.
uh, I mentioned it on my podcast, actually, on my own podcast last week, and I got one thing of hate mail, and it was like, oh, like look at this, blah, asshole, blah blah,
Mhm.
talking about how the Mavs aren't his life, and I was like, it's true, man. Like you don't, like, and the guy deleted his tweet, which I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like I would have, because I think people do know, like on Twitter, like if they go after me first, like it's open season for me, like people know not to try to go after me too much,
Yeah.
but yeah, like the Mavs, like I love them as much as I love the Mavs. Like I have way bigger things to worry about in my life. Like a win-loss record, doesn't put food on the table for me. Like
Absolutely.
so, like I have a kid on the way. Like
Oh,
so.
congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you. Like I have a kid on the way, so I'm just like I'm not. I have way bigger things to worry about than Jay Rich going like what, like 2 for 15 on a night.
Hmm.
Like he would never shoot that much, but like just stuff like that. Like I don't really care. Like like at this point, like I'm at a point where I feel like everybody should just like get away from Twitter for a second. Take a breath, go take a nap. Like
Absolutely.
go enjoy like a poison of your choice or whatever. Just go chill out. You can talk about the team in real life, like it's okay. Like you don't have to be on Twitter all the time to be super angry at people. So you know
Seriously. And speaking to that, I think I just learned a long time ago, you'll be upset way more often than you're happy if you're allowing the wins and the losses to sway your emotions every single time. Sometimes you just got to chop it up and say, "Hey, we lost tonight. The better team won. I wish we would have did X, Y, and Z, but we're on to the next game." Because a lot of time, like you say, they're already in a back-to-back situation. They play the Knicks tonight, and then they play the Wizards tomorrow, which we'll touch on briefly here in a sec. But at the same time, it's like, you're on Twitter and you're seeing so many people just, with such varying degrees of outlooks on the team and players, and it's just the nature of the business is just you're gonna have good days and you're gonna have bad days, but let's try to find a happy medium. And I just feel a lot of times, and like you said, and which is a great point, it's just Twitter and fan bases in general. They're very extreme, no matter which side you're on. I just find it odd because I'm a fan too, and I've never been that type of fan where I'm just so extreme. Now, honestly, as an admitted Cowboys fan, they've frustrated me plenty of days, but I've got to the point now after a lot of years of growth that I just won't let them ruin my Sunday anymore. And I just think that a lot of times if more people took that approach and understood that these guys are human too, because they talk about these guys as if they're robots that just didn't work when they put the batteries in or something. And it's so weird to see. So as a guy like you who's very much in tune with Mavs Twitter, that's good to hear from you because again, we just seem to share the same views. Moving along. So speaking of the Knicks, that's who they play tonight, and obviously this is the first time they'll play them. Um, and I'm excited for this game because I want to see Porzingis play against his former team. I hope he has a great game. I think he took a lot of unfair criticism when he left there because that team was just headed nowhere fast. And if I'm him, I would have tried to get out of there too. And them being good now does not like validate their thinking that, oh, he should have stayed type of deal. But anyway, I won't get too far into that. But what are your thoughts on tonight's game? Do you feel like this is a game they should win? What are you looking for in terms of production? I mean, obviously we would like to get Josh Richardson, off the snide because he's been a
Mhm.
little off lately. But what are your views on this matchup tonight?
I think it's a game that we should have won. But then I think every game that we play we should have won. um, you know, it's gonna be fun. I have no ill will towards like any Knicks fans, like or New York or anything. Like, they're fine. For the most part. Like, there are a few who like will like, I've seen like in KP's like on his Twitter and stuff like that. They just like they go after him, and I'm like, that's interesting, because it's been like what, year and a half, 2 years since the trade. So they're a good team. Like, and I know like it's the East, and everything like that. But I mean, like, they're at 500. Like I didn't expect them to be 500 this late in the season.
Mhm.
They're a good team. I think they're like what, like fifth or fourth in the East right now, which is crazy. Like,
Yeah,
again, it's the
from
East.
all down to like 9. It's like a 1-game separation from all those teams.
That's crazy.
Like,
That's
you can lose 2 games and be out of the playoffs, and you can win 2 games and you can be in fourth.
Yeah, that's such a crazy. I know that East is so weird.
Yeah.
But I mean, the West is kind of like that too in a different way though. But
Mhm.
because I think we're like what, like 3 games behind like the fourth seed, something like that at the moment. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know, um, it's gonna be fun. I like Julius Randle. I like Emmanuel Quickly. I've actually watched a few Knicks games, like just here and there, just like when I'm bored. I'm like, oh, like the Knicks are playing early. Okay, like for us anyway. Like Knicks are playing early. Okay, cool. I'm gonna put it on real quick and watch it. Um, at least until the Mavs game starts or whatever. And I mean, it's cool. Like, like the Knicks are good. The Knicks. It's good that they're good. Like, it's good that they're like good and they're gonna make the playoffs more likely. For them, I just think it's good, and I think like in terms of like who won or lost that trade, I think in the long run, like, because I've seen a graphic where it's like the Knicks, like, it's basically like the cause and effect of like the Porzingis trade for them, right? And it's like someone ends up like we get Julius Randle, and I was like, okay, that's cool. Like, however you guys want to spin it, like, I think if you want to spin it like that, then neither of us lost that trade. So whatever, like,
Exactly.
great. Like, I'm hoping in a few years anyway. Hoping in a few years, if Porzingis is still on the team, like, both sides can just be like, okay, cool, like that was a good trade. Like, let's just play. Like, who cares? Um, if we lose, like, I expect Twitter to be on fire again.
Crazy
So
cool.
it'll probably be an early night for me at that point. But I'm not. I'm looking forward to it. I think playing in the Garden is always pretty cool. Like, I know there's a few people on Mavs Twitter who will be there tonight, which will be cool.
Oh, wow.
Because they're allowing fans. Yeah, some fans. I think they have like 25% capacity or something like that. So that'll be
Okay.
good to have people in there. But yeah, I mean, I'm cool with it. Um, I like to see them play. I like to see them play against like fan bases that do like to talk crap to us. And it's like, well, I mean, like, you guys can talk crap, but I don't ever see my mentions. So like, I'm probably not gonna see what you're telling me.
Talk away into the abyss.
Yeah, go ahead, man. That's fine. Like, I'll let everybody else to deal with it. Like, I'm not gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
But it should be a game that we win. I'm excited. So.
Yeah. So, and with that being said, let's say, for instance, the Mavericks are up, let's say they're up 17 with 4.5 minutes to go. Are you on the side of they should play the rookies a little more, or are you indifferent? Like, it doesn't matter to you? Because, and it just for me, excuse me, just for me speaking, I want to see more Tyler Bay. I think there's an opportunity for him to get minutes in the rotation. Josh Green, maybe he's a year off, but I would still just like to see him continue to develop with playing time when the opportunity presents itself. When they're playing lesser competition and the score is out of hand, throw these guys in. Even Nate Hinton, who I think has a little ability, has some ability to maybe contribute as well. What are your thoughts on that in a scenario where they're up double digits with 5 minutes or less to go? You want to see the rookies, or do you not really care?
I definitely want to see the rookies. I'm not sure about 5 minutes to go, like with up 17, because as we saw recently,
Oh, yeah,
with the team,
that's a good point. That's a very good point.
the
3 minutes to go.
yeah, I'm thinking like about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. But I will say again, because I didn't really watch the Celtics game, but I did, I did see the other day, Josh Green getting some more time, like with like the main cast, and I was like, oh, this is
Yeah,
good.
that was good to see.
I was like, yes, like I want to see the more of that. Like I think Josh Green still is like the most immediate like contributor to the team. In my opinion, it goes Josh Green, Tyrell Terry, And I hate Nate Hinton. Oh my lord, Tyler Bay and then Nate Hinton. I think that like that's order of the guys that I have like who can contribute to the team. Tyler Bay to me is still Tyler Bay is almost an enigma to me where like I want to see him more.
Mm-hmm.
When I do see him, he does look a little lost sometimes. He's had a few dunks, a few like nice passes, a few good like rebounds here and there I've seen, but like he just I feel like I feel like maybe tomorrow may be a better time, like especially if like KP is gonna, miss tomorrow because something tells me he's gonna play tonight because it's the Knicks,
Yeah.
And I'm sure the league would appreciate that for viewer rating, but yeah, you know, I feel like if KP misses tomorrow, I think Tyler should get some more time, just to, you know, maybe like 15 minutes, of play time, like with like the bench and like Luca. I
Mm-hmm.
think those are, I want to see what these guys can do with besides Luca, like when they're beside him, because I need a, I think that's gonna be the best barometer because Luca can bring the best out of anybody, you know.
Yeah.
So I got to see that because if it turns out like they mesh really well, then some minutes maybe going somewhere else. Like maybe we
Yeah.
can't. Maybe we could technically start playing like KP like 15 minutes a game on his like quote unquote off days.
Mm-hmm.
And still give like Tyler Bay whoever like more time in that role. So that's what I think. Like again, like I'm not a huge proponent of like taking an entire like game off. Like I feel like if these guys can contribute, let them and like let KP like lessen his load on
Yeah.
days where he was already gonna be out anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Again, like if you just play him like 15 minutes and be like, oh, like he's out the rest of the game because health issues, whatever the hell, whatever they want to say, like just do
Yeah.
that, And I think it would at least like make the fan base a little more. It would quell, it would calm us down a little bit more, if we saw that instead. But I mean, it's not our decision, so.
True indeed. True indeed. And you make a good point. And for me, I've spoken on previous podcasts, and I've said I think that the Mavericks, I in a way with the COVID situation, they kind of burned all of their kind of load management days, so to speak. And it's just unfortunate, not to anyone's fault, but it's just the way it is. And like now, it's really tough to sit KP and Luca on the same night, or sit them like as long as they're healthy, they should play. And just maybe, like you said, maybe their minutes are watered down, and you divvy up the spare minutes to other guys. But they're in a position some of those other guys, so that's interesting. Um, Lastly, before we go, there was a lot made on Twitter about some comments that JJ Redick made about not wanting to play in Dallas. And of course, Dallas fan base immediately jumped down his throat and they've asked, where is he at? But, there's just been a lot of mystery surrounding him and not a lot of welcome until he made some comments on his own podcast about his current injury situation, his family, how it was constructed and how this whole trade went down and everything. And then fast forward, you extended a invite to your home for them to come by and have some of your family's wonderful cooking. Just
Yeah.
as I would expect, as such a loving guy like yourself. And I saw that his co-host Tommy Alter actually responded to you. Where are we at with that? Are the Old Man and Three podcasts going to make it to your house? Is Tommy going to make it? Where are we at with that now? I'm actually curious on that, and I'm sure that Hoopball Mavs would love to know.
It hasn't gone any far beyond that quite yet. I sent out a DM just to see what's up because
Mm-hmm.
Tommy did end up following me back. So, or yeah, he followed me back. So, just kind of, I'm just waiting to see what they say. It'd be cool if they did. If they don't, it's whatever. Like, I say dumb stuff like that all the time. Like to people, like, oh, like I'm always, oh, like Luca, let's go like to Whataburger or something like that, bro, or something. Like
Yeah.
I'm always just sending invites to people, and if they do decide to come, I gotta tell my mom, like, I'm sorry because I didn't mean to offer cooking like that. But
I didn't think he was going to respond to me. Now he did. Now I have to hold him.
yeah, I was like, crap. Now you respond to me. Yeah, so we'll see. If anything happens, though, I'll let Twitter know.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. I mean, but that just goes to show the reach you have. I mean, you're terrific on there. It's a pleasure to follow you, and you're always always spreading positivity and engaging with people. I mean, you see people with as many followers as you have, and it seems like they're just on there by themselves a lot of times, unless they're responding to somebody else with another check mark. But you'll respond to people with 100 followers. You'll respond to people with 100,000 followers. It doesn't matter. So it's just a testament to your presence online and the fact that you're just always available. And so I thought that was cool to see. I mean, and hopefully it does work out. It'll definitely be a good story to share on your podcast, I'm sure. And I mean, we'd love to have you back to revisit that entire scenario anyway, because that would be hilarious if in fact it did come down to that, and you and your mom made some food for them. So I would love to hear it. As a foodie, I would love to hear you break down the menu and what was eaten.
All right.
But that's it for today, you guys. Thanks for listening. You can go subscribe, download the podcast on all streaming platforms, leave a 5-star review. Again, this is Thomas. This is Mavs Reddit's own. We really appreciate you coming by and sharing some time with us on your off day. Congratulations on the on being a father to be. And where can people find you on Twitter and let us know your podcast as well?
You can follow me at Reddit Mavericks. I'm on Twitter and Instagram. Not really popping on Instagram because I have no idea what I'm doing on there, but I'm there. You can also find my podcast at Hoops and Hefeweizens. We're through the underscore MFLs on Twitter. So if you want to follow us there, you can do that too. So
awesome. And so you guys can also catch me at Hoopball Mavs and at LB Said It. That's LBSAIDIT. Again, thank you guys. Hopefully we get a win tonight against the Knicks. They need it, especially with these back-to-backs. They're grueling, so pick up as many cheap wins as you can. And we'll speak to you guys soon. You guys all be safe. Go Mavs.
This has been a Hoop Ball presentation.